welcome to Transforming the Times again. I'm your host, Suzanne Strisower, and I'm thrilled to be back with you. This is almost a month of complete programming on Streaming for the Soul. So I'm thrilled that you've joined me all this time, and I hope that you'll tell all your friends. If you've enjoyed this programming, we would love to keep you. And today I'm interviewing someone who you've been meeting and had with you for the last 4 weeks, and that's my resident astrologer. And the thing that's great about that is that now you're going to meet the person and get to know him in a more intimate way. And so we're going to do that segment today. So we're going to do a spiritual segment. But I want to tell you about a few other interesting updates that I've made to Transforming the Times. And one of those is that I'm doing something now that I'm calling Championing the Good. And Championing the Good is taking eco-celebs and expanding that territory a little bit. What are the good things that are happening on the planet? And that led me to something else, which is transformational movies. And did you know that there were over 50 transformational movies in 2013? I couldn't name 5 of those. And so I set out to find new movies and new content because everybody wants to be inspired and empowered. And I found some interesting sources from all over the planet, which I'm going to share with you. And so I'm going to go and take Championing the Good and transformational movies, and I'm going to bring those together in ways that kind of contribute to each segment. So each segment is going to have a theme and a topic and build upon itself. And that's something that I hope you'll enjoy. I hope you'll feel like you've got a rich buffet every week of these different segments that lead into Transforming the Times and that can take you to some wonderful places. So I'm going to forego my Cosmic Impact segment this week so that we're going to do that at the end of the interview so that you're going to get to meet in person live with me, someone who's been with me since the beginning, but this is the first time he and I have had a chance to really connect. So you're going to get to know him in a more intimate way, not just the brilliance of his cosmic weather reports that he does or cosmic impacts every week. And so you'll see what the thinking is from someone who has the brilliance of being in this world and is also connected with the stars and knows what the energy of the stars are and how those impact us. So I hope you enjoy that. So my segment that I want to let you know about today is on the conscious causes. And so in alignment with a spiritual segment, we're going to be going and doing the Spiritual Wellness Month. And the thing that's great about this is that there's so many different ways you can tap into your own spiritual wellness. You can do yoga, you can do meditation, you can get into groups with people who are like-minded. There's so many different ways that you can get involved. And there's a whole list of things. And so we'll be putting those up on the Transforming the Times Facebook page. And there's also, I didn't think about it this way, but there's 7 different types of wellness. And so there's emotional, intellectual, physical, spiritual, and social and occupational, and then, of course, the spiritual one, which is what this segment is about. So I want you to just take a moment and pause and think about that level of wellness, that deep wellness, that level of beingness for yourself. And just sort of sit there and how is it you're feeling in this moment? Just taking a moment with yourself to take in your own spiritual wellness and well-being. The other thing that this is International Mirth Month. March is Mirth Month. And so who doesn't need laughter? Who doesn't need more joy in their lives? And so I've got some great videos that I want you to see, and this is of a whole bunch of people and something called Laughology. So I think that you're going to have a really good time with this. So let's just take a minute and you'll get to go and participate in some laughter for National Mirth Month. So I hope you had a good time with that and you got some laughter, you got to bring some levity into your life, because we all need that, and to stop and be able to pause and just, whether it's wellness and well-being or laugh and laughter and laughology. And there's actually laughology clubs around the planet. And if you go to meetup.com, you can go and find some of those groups for yourself. So take advantage of the opportunity to have that exposure, that laughter, and that joy in your life. And finally, this is Stress Awareness Month. So I guess laughter would be a great antidote for stress. But one of the things that makes Stress Awareness Month interesting is that it looks at the root causes of stress. And so to be aware of those for yourself. And so we've got the antidotes with the spiritual wellness and then causes. And then we're going to be talking some more about that in this segment. And it's also Easter Sunday today. So I hope that you kind of take a pause on all those different levels of well-being for yourself and all the different factors that are playing in right now. And we're going to expand that out even in a more cosmic way as we move into this interview. So I want to go from here and go and think about and share with you a transformational movie. And so my transformational movie for this week is something that I found which fascinated me. And some people from some college kids, 4 college kids, actually set out on a trip to Guatemala, and they wanted to see what it was like for them to live like the people the rest of the world. And so they went and they journeyed down to Guatemala with $1 a day. And this is their journey and their story. So we're going to watch that trailer so that you can see if that's something that you want to actually watch the full movie on. And the movie is called Living on $1. And so here is a clip from that movie.
I've read about poverty my whole life in media, in school.
Sweating like crazy.
I think you're sweating because of the heat or your nerves?
I'm nervous.
What is it really like to live every day and only having $1 to spend?
¿Cuánto cuesta este?
We have water.
Hey, we have a water source.
It takes like 5 hours to cook beans and they're still very hard, so that sucked.
Estábamos pobres y seguimos siendo pobres.
3,600 calories split amongst 4 people is not good enough for our daily value.
We all have these pulgas.
I can't sleep another night like this. It's not due to laziness that someone is poor. It's not due to a lack of ambition or a lack of intelligence.
It's because they lack things that we take advantage of every day.
There is no going back now.
Let's get out, let's get out, let's get out.
That was highly illegal.
¿Por qué quieres aprender español?
Puede encontrar un trabajo.
Seems like this happens like once a day.
This life is incredibly, incredibly hard.
What can I do?
Each individual can affect and help a single other individual. We can change the world.
So wasn't that fascinating? And look how creative those guys were. I think the other thing that was amazing to me is what a great movie and what a great idea, what a great concept. They actually went into the Middle East and then they did that. And then that led into a championing the good cause. And what they did was they actually created a nonprofit and a charity called Living on One. And so what that means is if you're affluent, if you have a desire, you can actually help people live on $1 and have more than $1 a day. So it's a charity you can support, it has a global reach, and it helps people from all over the world actually go and have a better standard of living. So this is where our abundance and our generosity gets to be paid forward in all sorts of different ways. So the movie can inspire you, and then there's a way to take action. So I hope you've enjoyed that today in our Championing the Good segment. So I am thrilled today to give you the opportunity to glimpse another amazing man and person and contribution on the planet through his work. So today my guest is Dr. Michael Lennox, who you've met and who's been with me since this inception of the show, but this is the first time we get to spend some real time together. And he has been, for the last 20 years, a practicing psychologist, astrologer, and dream interpreter who's been sought after. He's worked on shows and had his own show, including the Holistic Health Show. He's the author of Dream Sight. And he wrote, and that book is about dream symbols. And it's amazing to listen to Michael talk about dream symbols and how to understand that. And he has appeared on the Sci-Fi Network's The Dream Team with Annabelle and Michael, the Emmy Award-winning show Starting Over, and the Soap Network's Soap Talk. He also did an interesting thing on MTV, which is Myths and Urban Legends, and lots of other shows. So I'm really pleased to have with you and with me today, Dr. Michael Lennox. Michael, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, it's good. It's good to sit down like this. I like it.
You know, it's amazing, Michael, because your work is got such a big bandwidth. Not only are you an astrologer, a dream interpreter, a psychologist, an author, I mean, just so many different things. But the thing that I most love, and the reason I'm so happy that you've done all these segments for me and you're going to continue to be kind of like my cosmic weatherman, is that you make it accessible for people.
Thank you. That is definitely something that I'm sort of committed to. It wasn't even really that I set out to do that, but as I did sort of enter the world and start talking about the things that make me passionate and I'm curious about, people would respond to me in that way. They'd say, oh, you make it so accessible. It's like, well, yay.
Right.
Because if it's not accessible, what good is the information?
That's right. And the thing that's great, and I love about astrologers, is what happens is, and when I meet astrologers, what my sense is of them is that I can literally watch the planets orbiting around in their brain. Like, you guys have this amazing ability to bring the planets down into this dimension and the energy. And I have to tell you, Michael, candidly, I looked through 50 astrologers before I found you, and so I'm so happy you've done these from the beginning.
Thank you.
And everything.
Well, I'm honored. And you know, you use a beautiful image there about the idea of the planets being inside of us. They are. I mean, that's the whole sort of point about the difference between somebody who doesn't understand or believe in astrology is they get stuck at the idea that these things out there that are very, very far away, how could they be impacting me? How could the planets be impacting me and influencing me? Well, they're not. They are you. They're extensions of us. And so we all, as human beings, have a little universe inside of our minds. And we've been thinking about this for millennia as human beings. The movement of the planets are happening inside each one of us, and each geometrical aspect of that has an interpretation.
Well, and so what I want to do, Michael, I want to start here, and then we're going to go back, because I take all my guests back to the beginning.
All right.
But what I really want to do, and what I want to have all of our viewers understand, because you do this in such a unique way. I don't know, and I trust and believe I've had my astrological chart done probably 15 times by professional astrologers who have probably 200 years worth of experience. And I've always had this standing joke that if I wanted to change my personality, I'd change my astrologer.
Okay.
Okay?
Great.
So what I think is great about this interview is that nowhere ever has anyone ever said that the planets were inside of you. So I want you to tell everybody how you feel them inside of you, Michael, so that people can get a sense of that for themselves, so that as they're watching us, they can begin to download the planetary influences. And then so that all these segments that they've seen and they can listen to again and all the segments to come, they can start to make sense of for themselves what that feels inside.
Okay, first of all, that's a great question.
But it's
and
huge.
A tall order. And
It
I
is.
don't know if I can do that.
Okay, well,
but I'm going to do my best.
Okay, well, so let's start simple. Let's start with the thing everybody knows, their sun sign. So there's the sun in the sky, and then maybe we get to the moon. But okay, so the things that people know, how is it that the sun lives in me? How is it the moon lives in me? And then let's add the color of the signs.
Okay, so this may or may not answer your question, but I'm actually going to change the subject in a way.
Good.
I'm going to tell you that, I started as a dream interpreter. That was the very first thing that I gravitated towards. I began interpreting dreams when I was a kid. It was a gift that I had. And when someone tells me a dream, each symbol, each segment of the dream is a thing itself, and that thing itself has an archetypal and universal meaning based on what it does. A cup or a glass is the symbol of the ability to contain something that you wish to take into you, okay? So interpretation is at the heart of any
I
sort
love
of
that, Michael.
archetypal science. So the idea of the sun is that thing at the center of our system that just burns. All it does is burn. I am here. I am the sun. It doesn't move about to us. It's central and stationary, and it's just constantly throwing its light out. Well, we have that. We as a consciousness. I am Michael. You are Suzanne. So in the I am Michael sensibility, there's a sun inside of me, which is the essence of me that is unchangeable. It can't be changed by you or
So
you
it's
or
the
you.
I am, it's the chi.
Yes, and the core center.
Okay.
This is why in the grocery store, because this idea of, well, I'm a Leo and you're a Capricorn or whatever, that's not really astrology, that's grocery store entertainment. But the reason why we identify with a particular archetype that is our sun sign is because our core, central, I am just sitting here burning my light, is unchangeable and unaffectable. So when I read the qualities that are associated with a particular sign, I'm going to identify with them because I'm born with that relativity. The idea, by the way, of the sun being in a sign is just the backdrop. If I'm on the earth and I take my first breath, in the room that I've been born in, and if I were to look at the sun beyond it, in the 360 degrees sort of ecliptic of there'd be a backdrop of these archetypes based on the
astrology.
signs, the astrology, the signs.
Okay, so I want to ground this now, Michael. So I'm a Scorpio, and if we take that analogy, how would that work? What would you say to me as a Scorpio about how that sun would live in me? Or if our listeners, so that they could understand this and maybe actually go further with you and have this done for themselves.
Sure.
How would I interpret that? I get the concept, but how do I really interpret that? How do I be with that?
We start first by demystifying the idea of the stars that make up that little shape in the sky. That does not look like a scorpion, because I have seen a scorpion, and that does not look like a scorpion.
Trust and believe.
Also, the width of the stars in the sky is not even and perfect.
Right.
But the 12 archetypes are. It's an elegant division of the 360-degree circle that we live in into 12 equal parts of 30 degrees. And so we have these energetic archetypes that they were here before us thousands and upon thousands of years ago, when the sun was in front of that part of the sky. Men and women looked up at the sun in that part of the sky, and they felt a kind of intensity, a kind of changeability, a kind of broiling kind of, that's the time of year where if you mess with me, I'm going to kill you off. Why is that so? I have no idea. But it's consistent that every time the sun's in front of that part of the sky, that kind of embroiled
quality.
intensity, that quality is present. So then the people who were making up the sort of things to talk about 40,000 years ago, 30, 20, were saying, this is that period of time where it's kind of intense.
So it's the energetic expression that we have. So whatever sign you are, you can begin to see, if you think about that sign, whatever it is, Cancer or Virgo, wherever you are, you can actually feel that sort of archetypal quality that anybody would feel during
Yes.
that period of time.
Yes.
Got it.
Now divide that by 9, and you've got all of these tinier little planets that each have again, a priori, my favorite little Latin phrase, it means it was here before. An a priori energy that when the people began to sort of look up at the sky and they saw this tiny little dot move around, it was kind of orange and reddish in the sky. And every time it was sort of over there, those guys around the mountain would come over and make war on us. And suddenly there's an association being made with that tiny little red dot and the warring tribe around the mountain.
Right.
And that becomes Mars, the god of war.
So then what happens is, in the old days before we got so much clutter in our minds
Yes.
and our beings, what happened was that you would just sort of feel
Yes.
and focus
Yes.
and experience.
And declare this is what happens when that is up in the sky. Now, this happens over thousands of years, not just, we, in our modern day, we think of a lifetime as everything, and, it takes a minute, to
Right.
receive 20 texts between you and your, mate, right? But in the older sort of sensibility of time moving very slowly, and generation after generation after generation of shaman who had this knowledge and
Right.
wisdom,
And-
passing it down.
and could really feel, because I know I'm not wired up to the astrology like that or to the planets, but I do know what downloads feel like, and you may as well.
Right,
what those
right.
downloads are, where you just feel certain things, or you sense certain things, or intuitive, or kinesthetic, or however that might be, or some.
And you have an experience like that and it has a sensation.
Yes.
And then you talk to somebody else who's had a similar experience
Yes.
and you suddenly have agreement. Oh my God, yes.
Right.
I felt that same sensation. And suddenly that sensation has a name.
Okay, so then, oh my God, Michael, you've just opened my mind up in a way that I hadn't even imagined we were going today. So for those of you who are watching, one of the things that's really interesting was that I've had this sense of the new energies coming in. I've certainly felt, and I'm sure that a lot of you have too. It could be in headaches, it could be nausea, it could be catatonic, could be manic, could be a lot of different things. And all of those things are the energetics of the planets
Yes.
that are impacting us.
Yes, and this is a
Oh my
great
God.
segue into the concept of geometry. These energies out there that have coalesced over now billions of years
Yeah.
into what we're now seeing as planets all have vibrational frequency, and they're moving about and they're relating to each other in what we identify in science as geometrical relationships. And some of those geometrical relationships are harmonious and easy to sort of be with. Like you and I, we're at a kind of 120-degree angle. I can see you, you can see the camera. We're kind of cool, it's easy. But what if I sat like this? Now we're at a 90-degree angle. Do you feel comfortable talking to me
No,
like this?
I don't like you like that.
No, because we're at two different relational angularity. This is a 90-degree angle. Now we're back to the 120-degree angle. There's harmony. Planets are doing this all the time, and some of them are moving very fast.
Doing the dance in the sky.
Changing that geometry day to day or week to week. Some of them are moving very slow. But no matter what the speed is, the geometry has a sensation. It's like this idea that people dismiss the notion of what are we moving at, like 67,000 miles per hour through space?
Right.
You don't think we feel that? I'm car sick all the time.
Right.
Just from the movement of the Earth through space. We are sensitive to it. We've inured ourselves to it. So we don't know how sensitive we are to the movement of the Earth hurtling through space. But 5, 6, 8,000 years ago, we didn't dismiss that idea.
No, 'cause we were
like,
so connected.
Yes,
We were
because we
so
were so
connected.
connected. It was easy to connect.
Okay, so this is huge, Michael. So we kind of got the sun.
Right?
Who's the moon now? What's the moon?
So
for
think
each one of
about
us?
The sun is consciousness. I am Michael. I am Susan. I'm clear that I'm here, right? No doubt that the sun is here. But the sun is this tiny, tiny, tiny little ultimately insignificant dot of fire in what is an enormous amount of emptiness or perceived emptiness, right?
Yeah, space.
We are beings of consciousness, and we think our consciousness is everything. Like, I'm awake, I'm conscious, and that's it. And I forget that the bulk of what's going on up here is in the mystery. It's in the space. It's in the unconscious. It is vast. But there's this tiny little being or planetoid thing, our moon, that has this capacity to reflect the light of the sun back at it. When we look up at the moon and we see that beautiful light, what we're actually seeing is evidence that there's blankness beyond. So that the moon then becomes the archetype of the tiny bit of the unconscious that we can be aware of, beyond which is empty nothingness.
Did you love that? Oh my God, Michael.
Just don't ask me to say it again. But you understand then, the dance between the sun and the moon is the masculine and the feminine. The I am the sun and the I reflect of the moon is a perfect balance of who and what we are, as I have a consciousness and I have an awareness that there's an unconsciousness there, and an appreciation that behind this reflection is this big, big, big emptiness.
Okay, so from that perspective, Michael, because I get this even in a way I've not until this moment gotten, so which is why I wanted you to do this with me, is, okay, so for all of you watching this, you maybe want to know, so how do we do that dance on a day-to-day basis of the sun and the moon, our conscious self, our unconscious self? So how do you recommend people do that dance in their life, Michael? How do you be with the sun and the moon in a way that you can flow? And, you know, I mean...
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and it is the question. And so I'm sort of going to answer this in two ways. The way of the heart needs no knowledge in order to do that well and to do that gracefully. It is only the mind that wants to get the technique or know what the moon is saying or do the dance. Like you know why this. I write on a daily basis for my subscribers to see what's going on every day. That's a brainy kind of thing that will guide the brain on how to be with the energy. It's sort of like, it's sort of irrelevant because really the heart, which is where all the juice is, doesn't need an extra information in order to do this well. And yet we are both a heart and a mind. We have to learn how to work with these two well together. So from the heart-centered perspective, the only thing there really is to do is pause, breathe, and move a little slower.
Okay, so if people are watching this, Michael, because one of the things I think I'm feeling is there's not a lot of trust on the planet right now.
Well,
trust
and Kenya,
is like
blame.
Trust is
It's
like
hard.
kind of a tough commodity right now.
Yeah.
So is that? I mean, I kind of don't even want to use the word astrologically based anymore because I think it's something more than that, or it's cosmic. Certainly in some of the past segments you've talked about some of that. But how is it that people can, I want to say, be intimate with themselves and be intimate with the cosmos? How do you recommend doing that? And I think it couldn't have been more perfect that you do dream interpretations, and also that in your daily astro alerts you also have a psychological thing where you actually kind of give people way through their minds down into their heart. But for people who haven't yet seen one of your daily astro alerts, how for our viewers, how do you recommend that they can tap into that, Michael?
Yeah. You know, you use the word trust and point out that it's difficult to trust, and I agree. And then, so the next step would be trust anyway. And that sometimes becomes something that in the beginning of a spiritual practice is something that you have to force yourself to do, or maybe even fake it a little bit, where you just say, I'm going to act as if I'm trusting my life. What does that look like in practical terms? It usually looks like stopping before responding to something, keeping your mouth shut when your impulse is to open your mouth, making a decision the next day instead of the day that you're confronted with the thing that says you need to decide on this. Well, no, I need to sort of sleep on this. Leaving the room.
So just allowing allowing that to kind of filter through you. And
Learn how to feel what the heart is
Yeah,
speaking. The
yeah.
heart is talking to you all the time, but we're not listening because
Right.
we're listening to our brain, or we're
Right.
listening to what our brain says. I'm fond of saying the brain, the mind sees far and is always wrong.
that's scary. Ah, that's scary. Okay.
But the heart
Yes.
knows in the moment
Yes.
whether you're in a safe place or an unsafe place.
Yes.
And so when you're in a safe place, stay. And when you're in an unsafe place, leave.
Right.
It's almost as simple as that. One of the things that I direct my clients to do all the time, and it usually gets a response of like, oh my God, that's so like, wow, what an amazing idea. And I think, really? It took
Right.
this moment for you to, I just tell them to put their hand on their heart, take a breath,
So do this with us right now and just feel
put a
that.
hand on your heart, maybe one on your belly, you take a deep breath, and it changes everything. We've stopped doing this because our mind doesn't know from breathing and
Oh, you really
pausing.
settle into your body.
Oh,
did
my
you guys
God.
settle into your body? Do you feel that? Just open up to receive.
Absolutely. There's even some research I've heard. I don't know if this has actually been bona fide, actual scientific research, but that putting the hand on the heart for 60 seconds can actually impact your immune system.
That's what I
What
understand.
it does is it quiets this, and it
Activates
broadens
that.
this. It activates this, and the body knows.
Right,
But
and
we're
also
not
loves
in
it.
our bodies.
That's right. So I want to expand out, Michael, because I think it's fascinating that you're an astrologer, you're an intuitive, and a psychologist, who's kind of the most grounded in one way of these other two. So how do these three parts of yourself dance together? Where do you start with people? Do you start with their chart? Do you start with an intuitive reading? Do you start as a psychologist? And then how do you blend that gift components all together?
It took a very long time
I can imagine.
to actually just let my gift work the way it wanted to work. I had a lot of ideas along the way. You know, when I was a kid and I took my SATs in high school and I came back and my scores were exactly the same in math and verbal. And my mother went sort of nutty. She was like, that is so unusual. And I thought, it is? It's like, whatever. I didn't realize the implications of that. And what they are the implications of that are that part of my gift is that I am inhabiting exactly half of the left brain and half of the right brain simultaneously. So
Now, is that also reflected in your chart?
it's,
Because that's it.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
you did
Yeah.
that kind of as a matter of course and evolution in your life, or what you brought into this life. But is it also
Yeah, I have
mirrored
a
in
lot
your...
of fire and a lot of air, and they have that in such equal measure. And fire is the sort of creative energy, and air is, sort of the intellectual energy. And when you put them together, I sort of refer to myself as butane. Kind of a. So,
I would say you're a laser torch.
all right, I'll take that too. I'll take that too. I love being a psychologist. I love having that education, and I love understanding human behavior.
And that was
at
the
a
last thing you did.
theoretical- Absolutely.
It was
came
not the
last.
first
Nope,
thing.
No.
So-
And how it started for me as an intuitive is that I became seduced by being thought of as special because I had an intuitive gift. Now, I didn't know this for a while. I just thought I was,
Being cool.
being cool. And I got confronted by people who loved me very much, who pulled me aside and said, it doesn't matter if you're right, Michael. If you are operating out of your intuition and you haven't been asked, it is none of your business to move into that intuitive space. And when I got confronted by that, the thing that I recognized was, oh, wow, I'm doing this because I want people to like me. What someone once said to me, you just want people to like you. And I said, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course I do.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
So that's something people have to learn. That
I
that's not-
had to let go of that.
Yeah.
I had to let go of leading with the intuition. But I also wasn't interested in not utilizing it. When I was getting my doctorate in psychology, I would sit around with my other colleagues, many of whom were already therapists, who were going back to school to augment from a master's level to a doctoral level. And I thought, oh, these poor people have to wait like 13 weeks of therapy, what I could see in 1 or 2 sessions.
That's right.
So I wasn't interested in letting go of my intuition. So what I found was, in order to live at that place where they meet, it's actually best if I start with the astrology.
Because then, so you're kind of turning at my world. It's like I feel like my world was flat and now it's getting round with all that.
All right.
So within that, so when you go and you do someone's astrology chart with this kind of process in mind that you're now talking about, Michael, so you take the astrology chart, which then gives you a blueprint
Yes.
of the imprint
Yes.
of the energies that are on them at birth,
Yes.
the inherent and intrinsic conflicts, oppositions, squares, whatever they may be. And then you say, oh, okay, good, I know how you're wired. And then you can move from there. Is that kind of right?
You're almost exactly right, because I'm more looking at, because I know the astrology so
Intimately. Yeah.
When I look at the chart, what I'm really looking at is the mathematical connection of their first moment, as represented by their natal
Yep.
chart, and the math of the current moment.
The progressed.
No, not the progressed. The cosmos.
Oh,
now.
got it. So you're seeing how the energies at their birth
And the
are
energies
now
now
working
are
together,
locking in
whether those
together.
gears are working
Right.
or not.
And what that will identify for me is the starting point. All I need to know with the client is, where do I start the conversation?
What an amazing thing.
And then what I do is start the conversation, and then I just let it happen. I let the intuitive part of the experience take off, recognizing that I'm really just holding space,
Right.
that the wisdom is coming through me, not from me.
Right.
I need to know where to start. But be assured that the part of me that needs to know where to start is my human, scared, insecure
head again.
part. The head.
Not the heart.
Not the heart. My heart saying to me, what are you doing with the looking at the thing? Who cares? Just talk. But I can't operate that way, because I'm also the human being who has insecurities and fears, and I want you to like me.
So again, it's that trust factor. So if you're watching this, the opportunity here is to understand your own astrological makeup at this level, so you can understand what's operating in you, both from birth and, as Michael says, also in the present moment, and to see how those things are working. And I have to tell you, when I would go through my Saturn returns, and I'm just starting one in the next 6
You're in
months.
your second Saturn
I'm just
return?
about ready
I call
to.
that the goddess period, by the way.
Oh, thank God.
So it's a beautiful thing,
Oh, my
especially
God.
if you're a teacher or on a conscious path. It's a beautiful moment.
Okay, so for all of you, if this is something that has a resonance for you, I recommend that whether it's Michael or someone else, that you really get to know yourself in this way. Because what it'll do is it'll give you the opportunity to ground a lot of who you are. And so you can feel that, you can be with it. And if you're having a sense and feeling of aha moments in this moment, you may want to connect with Michael, and he's going to make a special offer at the end of this for you guys, so that you can actually do that. And of course, as you know, he's going to be with us, as he has been from the beginning, doing the daily or weekly astro alerts. So I want to shift, Michael.
Sure.
Because I think that we've given everybody a good flavor of astrology. But there's also dream interpretations. And
My first love.
that's right. And I think the thing that's fascinating to me about you and dream interpretations is, when I got my master's in psych, I can remember they talked about, I started reading, and not reading what I wanted to read, but reading the text. And all of a sudden they took me into the Ouroboros, which for everybody is a creation myth. And then all of a sudden what happened was, I dove deep and I dove big and wide.
Yeah.
And so talk about the dream realm, Michael. Talk about how you experience it, both personally, out of your own bigness of your being, and also what is the blessing of dreams for our viewers that they can kind of take from this segment?
First, I just have to say, I'm getting emotional just thinking about how much I love the dream. I'll say one thing. As a kid, dreams just filled me. Life was difficult. I was lonely and sad as a kid. And the dream world was not that. And so I personally felt just a great fullness from the dream experience. And then now, as a thinker, I can think back about, well, what must that have been for early civilization, and when we were gathering around the fire, and we didn't have, the Real Housewives of the Serengeti, so
Right.
so we were talking about what was filling us, which was the dream world. And
Right.
so the original connection for human beings to create meaning, mythology, stories came from the dream.
So not only the dream time, not only the dream, Michael, but the dream time.
Yeah.
And the dream dreaming us, which I feel like is happening now. And so if you're listening and you have a lot of dreams, I highly recommend that you write them down.
Yes.
Those are part of transforming your life and your time in a way you have no idea about. And so it's this huge expansion in consciousness, and one of the ways people get to tap into that is through dreams.
Absolutely.
So will you talk about how people can do that, Michael? How you recommend your clients to tap into that? For me, there's two parts. There's the dream and there's the dream time. And they're not
I love that.
necessarily
They're
the
not
same.
the same thing.
They're not the same.
thing.
So
Well, let's talk about the dream time thing for a second, because one of the things that will speak into is sort of the antithesis of being somebody who's an expert in dreams in the world and who actually has a gift. I can interpret a dream, and you can hear me interpret a dream, and people's eyes go wide and they go, wow, that makes so much sense. And yet, that's the least interesting thing to do with the dream, is have someone interpret it for you.
But here's the thing, Michael. I think that you did something amazing. I mean, and for some people who are not connected to their dreams, just the idea that this is a container.
Right.
So this is a container. So what are you holding? What are you containing? What would you say about the candle?
The candle is the capacity to create light and life, just like we are created as a flame from the divine. That holds the capacity for us to light it, to create light. And it then would have secondary meanings of it's a small ability, the ability to light the dark.
Wow. So the other thing is that I'm going to imagine that those are in your book, Dream Sight, right?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
most are. DreamSight's more of a teaching tool. There's only 300 terms in it. It's more designed to get people to think just like this. So
Fantastic.
I took 300 frequently occurring symbols and I wrote a lot about them to get people to think about, well, what does the thing mean based on what does it do? What is its essence? What is its use? I'm currently writing another dream dictionary that's coming out from Llewellyn, my publisher, which will be out in 2015. It's just a standard, 1,001 terms with lots of little, tidbits.
so if people wanted to get Dream Sight?
Anywhere books are sold.
Okay, and so what it would do is it would help people take the next
yes.
level of what we've just done.
Yeah. My gift for interpreting dreams is not that I know what things mean. We just illustrated that the meaning is hidden in the thing itself.
Right. I love that. Makes it so simple.
My gift is that I can do it so fast.
Right.
I just do it like that. You're telling me the dream, and it's already coalesced inside my head. Left brain, right brain. That's part of how that works inside me, is that while I'm hearing the dream spoken of in linear terms in that left
thread.
brain way,
Yeah.
my part of my being is off in three-dimensional space where I'm grabbing every possible potential meaning for that, and then I can speak into it at the center.
And so people can find more about that in Dream Sight, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's a
absolutely.
tremendous gift, and I feel like I do that too, although I wouldn't say dreams are my forte by any stretch of the imagination. But I love the dream world. I like more the dream time.
Well, so let's talk about that.
Yeah,
So this
yeah.
is back to the idea of, to me, one of the most valuable things that you can do with your dream and in your dream work is just to be with them. That you're thinking about them. It's like going back into the dream time.
Yes.
So that you wake up
Yes.
and you had it, and then you're thinking about it, and you're brushing your teeth, and you're thinking about it, or maybe you tell your girlfriend around the water cooler at work, and then you're thinking about it and being with it. That's an honoring. The dream wants to be honored and revered in the dream time. And so in our waking time, we can actually connect to the dream time by writing the dream down, ruminating about the dream, thinking about the dream, expressing the dream. My favorite, which would be do something creative with the dream, draw a picture from the dream, write a poem about the dream. Anything that honors the dream time in the waking time is very valuable.
So when you talk about that, Michael, I want for our viewers, if you were going to go and give them the right and left hemisphere, how, for people who are more left hemisphere and all they can do is, oh, I had this dream last night.
That's awesome.
How do they go and actually take it through to their right hemisphere? Is it by, so I want to empower people
Right.
because again, it's like the cosmos and most people don't have a fluency in both worlds like we do.
Got it.
So I'm trying to like give our viewers a way through, a door.
I'm just making this up, but say someone is very left-brained and it's very easy for them to write the dream down. So then you've got one form of two forms. You've got the form of the dream in the dream time as it lived inside the dreamer. Now we've created a second form, a sort of prosaic description of the dream, and then I, and then I, and then I. Then what a person might do who wanted to honor the dream more, but who's still very left-brained, maybe draw an outline of the dream content, symbol by symbol. You know, duck, ice cream cone, clown car, earthquake. Where in the dream it's like I was dreaming and the duck was flying by and then I had an ice cream cone and suddenly the clown car drove up and the earthquake swallowed up the clown car. Then now we've distilled it into just simple, symbolic skeleton of the dream. Still a left brain experience, but totally honoring of the dream content.
Okay, so take this to the next step, Michael.
Draw a duck.
No, okay, so draw a duck. And
draw
then
a clown car.
And so what you would want people to do then out of that is to actually experience. What do they, I mean, so the duck had, you know, green feathers. It was a mallard. I mean, where do you go with that?
Well, I think the point I'm trying to drive home is just attending to it in any way is an experience. If you're not moved to quack like a duck around your living room.
Got it.
Now, if you're courageous enough, I'd say, yes, quack like a duck around the living room and you are honoring your dream. But not every left-brained person is going to be willing to do that.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say and what people could potentially do with that is to embody the duck consciously because it came through your subconscious.
It's part of you.
And now you're bringing it through.
Remember the planet that's part of your consciousness. The duck
the
is part of your
subconscious
consciousness.
is the same way.
Absolutely.
Got it. Michael, this has been amazing.
It's been fun.
So what I want to do is I want to have you talk a little bit about your daily astro alerts so people can understand that because, you know, they've seen a lot of your charts and you've talked about the cosmic weather on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
But talk to us about the you know, what your daily astro alerts are because if people have plugged into this and they feel like, oh my God, somebody's finally talking my language about all this, then they have a way to go do something with you.
Well, one of the things that I can do in a daily form that I can't do in a weekly form is I can talk a lot about what the moon is doing.
Right.
You know, and the moon is a big part of our daily mood.
Right.
And how we're feeling emotionally, because the moon, connected to the unconscious, is also connected to our emotional sensibility, right? So by writing about every day's weather, I get two pieces of feedback from the people who are subscribers to me. Some people read it the night before when it comes out at 9 o'clock the night before. They cannot wait to read it so they can sort of plan their day. It's a day where mentality is going to be bumping into walls. I should hold my tongue. Or it's a day of heart opening. I think I'll get that massage tomorrow that I was maybe planning to hold on to
nice.
Friday.
I love that.
So they use it as an advanced tool. But at the same time, and I think this is just as valuable, a lot of people tell me that while they'll read it in advance, the real value is after the fact. And then they have their day's experience, and then they can read what the planets were doing and what the geometrical energy was, and they can say, oh, now I understand that confrontation at work. Mercury and Uranus were aggravating each other. Mercury is the mind. Uranus is the lightning flash kind of experience. And that conversation at work came out of the blue and changed the whole paradigm of things. So after the fact, there's a deeper understanding of that, which I think the value there is it helps people remove the shame and blame they have for things that they've done.
See, and personally, if I have astro alerts like that, I would love to use them to help me ground and be in a bigger space of consciousness. So I'd be the one that would read it at 9 the night before.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, that just makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so here is a chart, Michael,
this
so that we can talk about this week. And we talked about the aspects, and all of this stuff that you see in here is the aspects. So all of the stuff in the center circle are the aspects.
Yeah, that's the geometry.
That's the geometry you're talking about, Michael. So let's give people a fuller understanding of the geometry. And this is really funny because most of this chart you see has got triangles and squares. So what about that?
Well, you know, one of the things that's building that we've been talking about from the beginning is this Cardinal Grand Cross, this Cardinal Grand Square that is building, that's going to peak very much at the end of April. And the 4 planets that are involved there, as you see, is Jupiter over here, J-U-P, Mars down there, M-A-R, over there near you, Pluto, P-L-U, and then U-R-A, Uranus. That is a Cardinal Grand Square. Now, that is not quite exact yet. That's going to be exact on April 23rd. But it's a slow-moving process that makes the entire year very
And
fast-moving.
a slow burn.
Yeah. It's a slow process that makes fast energy happen.
Okay, so what I want to do is I want to take a moment before we go further, because this is impacting profoundly
Yes,
everybody on the
yes,
planet. So
yes.
starting on January 1st, we had one of these Cardinal Grand Crosses, and this is the second or the third one, Michael?
Well, if you're talking about the cross, the square between Pluto and Uranus, that's the sort of the anchoring of the Cardinal Grand Cross that's peaking, this has been going on since the middle of 2012, and there are 7 of them.
Oh, wow.
And the 6th one of these 7 is the one that's in April with Pluto and Uranus. You can see that right there, Pluto's at, there's a number 13 by it. Pluto's at 13 degrees of Capricorn, and Uranus is at 12 degrees of Aries. Pluto changes things slowly. Uranus changes things fast, and 90 degrees, a square, is the angle of change. It's like 2 qualities that are approaching the same thing, but in such different ways that change occurs.
So for our viewers, in common language, what exactly does that mean, Michael? So one is in Capricorn, the other is in Aries. So so give us a translation. This is my cosmic weatherman talking.
Capricorn is an archetype that aligns with structure. So that means that structures are changing. Wherever Pluto is, things are definitely, old landscapes are being torn down, new ones are being built up. And since Pluto moved into Capricorn in 2008, which was when the markets collapsed, the structure of the markets got tweaked and started to change and collapse, and new ones being rebuilt. So that's the essence of the Pluto corner of things. The Aries energy, where Uranus is, both Uranus and Aries have a sense of fast, invasive energies, because Uranus is known as the Great Awakener. It's the change that happens so suddenly, it's like a paradigm shift. And Aries is the ram that sort of butts his head into the room and says, I'm here, we're ready, we're going. So what you see in the world, and all you need to do really to understand this, you know, in layman's terms, turn on the news. You've got these changes happening everywhere. In every country, in every continent, there are governments toppling and revolutions starting and stopping and all kinds of...
And all since 2008.
Yeah.
So, okay, so how can people take that to heart, Michael? How can they take these planetary influences, these profound planetary influences and impacts, because this is one of the biggest ones in the sky right now.
Yes.
What's your prescription, your astrological prescription for this aspect for people in a global way? Because you know, everybody's got their own stuff going on.
So we are living in a time that is sort of remarkable in its speed and shift. Things are changing very fast, and that's happening out there in the world globally. It's happening in our technology, it's happening in our social constructs,
Everything.
in this country, you know, everything. It's also happening inside of us. Remember, it's not just out there in the world, it's in here. So in my own consciousness, there's revolution, there's war, there's peace brewing, there's a new president, there's, you know, there's new civil rights happening, all inside my own consciousness. I will know that and experience it. When I say I mean, you know, your viewers.
So you know what I'm thinking? I'm schizophrenic.
Well, yes, that's sort of what I'm leading to.
I'm
leading to
schizophrenic.
This is a year where the pace is so relentless and so fast that there's only one thing to do. Surrender to that. Stop trying to change the change. Stop trying to control the inevitable shift. Pause more, breathe more, and allow the shifts and the changes
Back to your heart
occur.
and your belly again, everybody.
Yeah.
Back
you know,
to your
last
breathe.
year there was a grand water trine. It was very different energy last year. It was in triangular energy, which is just big flow, and it was all in the water signs, which is emotional and interior. So I had a lot of clients who were going through great heartbreak, and some who were more fortunate to have the breakthrough than the breakdown, were having great sort of emotional expansiveness. It was inevitable that interiorly last year, things were just changing and flowing and flooding. That's not the case this year anymore. It's all just about fast pace, relentless, keep going, keep going. So the thing for people to do with that information is surrender. Stop trying to slow down a pace that is rushing ahead in its own sort of framework.
And if I'm understanding you right, Michael, it's not something we're going to be able to change.
No, not something we're going to be able to change.
You either get to go with the flow, or you're going to
get run over by it.
Yeah.
And this is where a spiritual practice comes in. And I don't care if your spiritual practice is physical fitness. You know what I mean? You don't have to be looking at your navel. You don't have to be meditating in the way that I do. Yes, I am a daily prayer and a meditator.
Right.
That is
to keep you in that center.
Absolutely.
And
I cannot live without it.
Connected with that energy.
Absolutely. Because if I don't, I suffer. I have my human foibles that cause me to feel sad, disconnected, isolated, overwhelmed. I don't feel that way at all because I know how to combat it with what works for me in a prayerful practice and a meditative practice. There's a bazillion ways out there to find things that work for you as an individual. That's how to combat that kind of change, is a centering practice that works.
So what's interesting is we started this segment with Spiritual Wellness Month. Now you know why. So whatever that practice is for you, I recommend you continue, and now you know why and why it's important. And if you don't have one, go and pick the one that's most important or feels like most close to your heart. And you could start with prayer because that's something everybody's familiar with, or meditation or yoga. And like Michael said, there's a million different kinds. So Michael, I want to thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure.
I mean, what a great journey you've taken us on.
Thank you.
What a great journey.
Hey, and welcome to this segment of Cosmic Impacts. This is your video Astro Alert for the week of March 31st through April 6th. And I'm going to reiterate a little bit about the big event that's happening in the month of April that's been building really all year long and is going to continue to build throughout the rest of next month and beyond. Because this week it's being activated by the sun. So this will make sense in just a moment. So let me just start by talking about the Cardinal Grand Cross that is the hallmark of this entire year. This is the 360 degrees of the cosmos being divided into 4 equal parts by the power of change that Pluto represents, change through alchemy and slow, steady change. The power of change through the lightning flashes that Uranus brings. The power of expansion that Jupiter brings, bringing good fortune and the principles of abundance into the picture. And then our friend Mars, who's the last corner of this Cardinal Grand Cross, who represents our bodies, our physical bodies, and also our sense of embodiment, how we are walking our talk through our lives. So these 4 planets aligned in the geometry that creates change itself, the 90-degree square. There's now 4 of them. Remember, think about a square in this way. A square is 2 energies that want the same thing, but approach getting that same thing from completely different perspectives. So with 4 of these planets all creating this enormous amount of change, the change is unavoidable. The perspective from which that change will occur is going to be multitudinal and various. No matter where you look, change is going to be occurring. So why I am taking so much time to speak today about something that doesn't peak for a month is because it's really just about to take off. And one of the things that happens this week is that our friend the sun is going to activate this big event by conjuncting with our friend Uranus. Now, the sun is the I am consciousness. That's why we have a sense of identifying with our sun signs, is because the sun is that never-changing center of our solar system, and it represents our conscious awareness. So this week, the sun is going to be activating all 4 of these parts of this Cardinal Grand Cross in kind of like an anticipation of the energy of change that's coming a month later, this is actually very good news for us. It means that this week you can be aware of some of the things in your life that are going to be impacted by the great change that April's going to bring. We've also got the eclipses coming, and between the wormhole of the eclipses and the Cardinal Grand Cross next month, April, which actually starts tomorrow, is going to be kind of a raucous day. This sun's awareness this week allows us to look around and say, okay, I can see the lay of the land. I know where I'm going. Take advantage of that. Our friend Mercury is going to be trining Saturn on Wednesday, and that's going to be helpful to us because Mercury is the archetype of the mind, and it's how we perceive and then also speak about our world through the archetype of Mercury. Saturn is the lord of karma, the part of our consciousness that is interested in growing and changing in order to move from our karmic stumbling blocks into our dharmic destiny. And so a harmonious transit between the archetype of the mind and the archetype of the great teacher is also beneficial for being aware. I think that if I could put a sort of a generalized sensibility of this week, it would be, it's a week to be consciously aware and clear about. That's what Mercury brings with a trine to sign. It's a trine to Saturn. It's a clarity moment of where am I? Where am I as a result of where I've been, because the last few months have been pretty crazy, and where am I going, which is going to be important to know in advance a little bit, because once we get rocking and rolling with the eclipse season and the Cardinal Grand Cross next month, we're not going to have a lot of time to ground and acclimate ourselves. That's your job this week. If you want a little assignment, and I would say Wednesday is probably a good day to do this, is write it out. Write out the game plan. What are you up to creating? Whether this is a project or an idea about your life and a structure on the outside of your life, or even just what you're creating for yourself in your own inner landscape of consciousness and harmony and peace within your own spiritual practice. It's a great week to put it on paper and make some clarity for yourself as we anticipate this next go-round of crazy energy that's coming up this month. So if you are enjoying these cosmic impacts, you know, one of the things that you can benefit by becoming a subscriber to Transforming the Times is that if you become a subscriber, you can get 2 free months of my daily astro alerts. It's a $5 a month subscription, so that's a savings of $10, and you will get in your mailbox at 9 p.m. the night before the next day's astro transits for the day to help guide you through this crazy time that we're coming in. So check that out, become a subscriber of Transforming the Times, and we'll see you next week.
Wasn't Michael amazing? So I'm so thrilled that he's going to be ongoing with us, and that you've had those weather reports up until now, but now you get to see what his true brilliance is, and going forward you get to plant some deeper seeds for yourself. So if you found this interesting and meaningful, definitely check him out and check out his astro alerts. And what's really interesting is that Michael has said and given us this gift of willingness for all of the people who want to be founding sponsors to Transforming the Times, this television show, that he's willing to give you a month free of his daily astro alerts. And so normally it would be $5 a month. He's giving that to you free for 30 days. And then in addition, because I love this show and I'm committed to this show and I want to be able to give you a gift myself, I have 4 guided visualizations that I've done as a coach on a variety of different topics. And then I really want for you to have that. So if you thought about the dream stuff or past lives or sleeping, and I actually have a couple meditations you can do at night to sleep and tap into that part that Michael was talking about, you have the opportunity to do that with me. And then the other thing is that Streaming for the Soul has done a lot of live streaming. They've actually recorded some documentaries that also bridge this gap of energy and experience and exposure. And so we're going to be offering both sets of these DVDs on Brazzo, who's a healer and talks about gazing and their experiences, and so you can dream into and tune into that. And so if you want to get involved with Transforming the Times and be a founding subscriber, we're going to give that to you for $24.99. And if you feel like this programming is something that you really want to support and really want to be with us for a full year, what we're going to do is we're going to offer you the Michael's Daily Astro Alerts. You'll get that. You'll get my 4 guided visualizations. You'll get both sets of these DVDs, as well as I'm going to give you a copy of my Life Purpose Workbook in a PDF form so you can easily download it. And it's an award-winning Life Purpose Workbook. It takes you from the very beginning, the natal, which is what we talked about today, developmental, psychological, professional, spiritual, mystical, and transitional, all those aspects of your purpose in a 5 simple step process to find your purpose in life. So if you're wanting to bring all this together and to take what you've experienced today and to another level, come and become a year-long sponsor for $49.99. We'd love to have you. I'll look forward to you joining us again next month. And in the meantime, be blessed. Thanks for joining us.